Good morning, folks. We're giving psychology away. I just heard that Mr. Chip Roy from Texas endorsed Ron DeSantis, whatever it is, from Florida. And I called the office to register my disdain. I don't want Ron DeSantis president. His office is not responsive. I've called there. He's not responsive. They're not receptive to the people. Come on, Greg. Come on. We've both had breakfast, been up for a while, slept really good. This is going to be giving psychology away. It should be 1:46. I decided to take a minute before jumping in the shower. I'm going to go pump iron today, which I love. I still got some important letters and stuff to do. I did get the Bible off in the mail to the one fellow who wanted one autographed, like I wrote the thing. I'm sorry, I didn't do that. I didn't have anything to do with the translation of it. I just identified it as being the best one out there today. Oh yes, good girl, huh? Oh yeah. I'm a little upset because we have a bunch of Israel firsters in office. You got Ron DeSantis, who's trying to make it illegal to question the Holocaust, like it really, really happened. It didn't happen the way they claim, folks. It's a bunch of lies. It's a hollow hoax. We should open it up and discuss the Holocaust that occurred during the last century. And in my estimation, it's not 100 million people that were killed. It's 200 million Christians that were killed. Now, I understand the world is deceived, so we're going to run around still calling it Christianity, still thinking that there should be a religion called Christianity. And if you listen to my other channel, I give an advanced Bible lesson, a study. It doesn't go far enough. I'll have to do it again. But basically, the Christians didn't call each other Christians. No, for some reason, that myth started recently in the last 2 centuries, maybe in the 1800s. Okay, off. The fact is that you have people worshiping Israel. And the Jews as if they're the chosen ones, the chosen people. Look, I can read the Bible 2 ways. One way is the Israelites were chosen, and an Israelite is not a Jew. However, it's possible that there might be a Jew who is of Israelite stock. I mean, that's a real good reality. It's not just a possibility, but there's got to be a few out there. But I can tell you this, the majority in those in Israel are not descendants of Israel, the man, whatsoever. Does that make it a problem? I think it does. I think we have to start discussing the truth. We have to love truth and justice. And if we don't love the truth, we'll never get to any justice. But in this country, we love the lie. Come on, face it. You like to be told smooth things. You want to be flattered. You don't want the truth being told to you. You don't want the ugly reality. You do not want a reality check. Oh, and you want to be polite. You don't want to offend anybody. So you can't have your own opinion, and you can't even stand your own ground. And you don't know up from down. You don't know right from wrong. You don't know anything anymore. And why are we arguing about these schools and funding them? Why have we not fired them? It should be against the law for this central government to interfere in education at all. Maybe the state level is where it should be, but that's the highest level it should go. It should not be standardized across the country. I don't like Texas very much. They're the ones that dictate the school books, the school books for the rest of the country, and they dictate liberal books. Yeah, Texas, you think you're so big and so proud and so conservative? Oh, hell no. You all big screwed up big time. Every one of these congresswomen, congressmen, every congressperson, when they get in office, is sent a fax. Who's it from? Well, I'm not really sure. I think it's from AIPAC. And I believe the fax is, it is your pledge to support that little postage stamp of a country, Israel. And they want you to sign that more than they want you to take your oath of office. Gee, I wonder why that is. And should we even call that place Israel? Did you know that Adolf Lincoln rightly should be called the father of modern Israel? It was the deal he made in the transfer agreement that allowed that country to exist and flourish. And did you know that country was founded based upon terrorism? Yeah, some horrible stuff. And we turn our backs on those poor people that were the victims. What kind of justice is that? And then our last president saw fit to steal land from another foreign country and give it to Israel. Now, where the hell did he get that power? He didn't. He should be held accountable for it. Oh, they call it Trump Heights today. The Golan Heights is part of Syria. Should be part of Syria. No, we keep enlarging and expanding Israel. We keep robbing the neighbors to pay Israel. We really should cut off all the funding for Israel. We are spending more money on an Israeli than we spend on an American. We are truly enslaved. They're leading America by the nose. But you people who go to church say, oh, no, the Jews are blessed. It says there, see that? No, it doesn't say that. If you bothered to read the Bible at all and learn history at all, you would know that the blessings given to the patriarchs were not to Jews. They weren't Jews. There was no Jewish faith until about 600 AD. That's right. It was kind of backwritten into the Bible a little bit. Words got translated differently. Words were invented at different times. I don't even think there was a word called, any word that began with the letter J until the letter J existed. When was that? The Elizabethan error. You heard it right, E-R-R-O-R, error. Folks, we are dealing with the fight between good and evil. It's been going on for at least 70 to 72,000 years on this planet. That's as far back as I can trace it. And I tell you on the other channel in some depth as to who the two groups are that are warring. You have Eve, who was the mother of both parties. She was seduced by a fallen angel named Gadriel. And just so that you understand, and since this is not the Bible study channel, and I guess you're going to be least likely to be offended, right? We got the name God by shortening the nickname of Gad, which eventually got transliterated to God. And we ended up putting that, backfilling that in the Bible, so that we got rid of Yahweh's proper name. And that happened about 275 BC, before Christ. Got it? Ptolemy II was producing the Septuagint. The purpose of the Septuagint was so that the vast majority of Israelites that were in dispersion and had taken up the Greek language, they had been Hellenized, so they could read the Bible, understand the Bible, it would be available to them. That's why that big, magnificent endeavor was engaged in by Ptolemy II. It was Ptolemy II who took out the name Yahweh in 2015 AD. So that's about 2,080 years later, I believe. No, 2,380 years later. Okay. We put it back in. We've got the old text and we've got it in there. That's why this Bible is such a breakthrough. And that's why it's so important. And I know the name Yahweh sounds pretty weird. It's like, man, where's that come from? How'd you get that? What language is that? It's foreign to us. So the advantages of my Bible, which I didn't write, I didn't help translate, I don't do anything except tell you about it. There's a link down below. You can hit that link, and there's 5 different formats available. Get yourself one. The prices have not gone up, not that I can tell. They might have gone up a little bit, but I don't think so. And then once in a while, there may be a sale there as well. But I do know that I was promised that these prices that you follow, that you get to by following the link that I provide you, are supposed to be the lowest prices available anywhere. They end in 77 cents. And so that's where we're at. So you will know that you're getting the lowest price. And you'll also know you're contributing to my my stations, my channels by buying one of those. I get a little bit of a stipend off those. Yes, I want to sell 1,000,000 Bibles. It would make me a millionaire a few times over, but I know in the course of that I would be making the government richer and hiring a whole bunch of other people and putting them to work, and so I wouldn't be a multi-millionaire. I would just be able to put a lot of people to work, and I would be living more comfortably for sure. I like to burn my money. I'm in a motorhome. This thing's powered by gasoline. When I put gas in my tank, I burn my money. That's all there is to it. It's not very efficient, so I got a little tow car that is efficient. I don't see those things changing anytime soon. I've got one of the last of the good engines. It's a total cast iron block and heads. And it's a nice engine. It's a beautiful V8. Yes, it's an old pushrod V8, but it really sounds magnificent, and it's got some power to it. It loves gasoline. It runs great. Just loves gasoline. And I like it. I'd like to get a little bigger motorhome, a diesel pusher perhaps, be able to carry more junk down the road, be able to carry some cartons of Bibles with me would be nice. That would enable me to do that. I know you're going to tell me, well, then you need a bigger rig yet. You need one with a tandem axle so you can carry twice the weight. Well, that's possible as well, but I'd really not want the complexities and headache of that. I'd like to just step up to another level, and I don't want the top-of-the-line luxury level because they put the expensive stuff on there, and that stuff breaks and it's expensive to replace. So I just want a level below top of the line where it's got the good engine in it and a good transmission, and it's pretty well designed and well made. There's a few rigs out there like that. They come available once in a while. I had a dream, and I was being put into one of those rigs, so I know what I'm looking for. In case you're wondering, I'm looking for a Beaver Patriot Thunder somewhere between the years 1998 and 2002. And I'm leaning towards the 2002 because it actually has a little bit more living space in it, more cabinetry in it. 2 slides instead of 1 slide. But then I would love the earlier one, the 1998, 99, because there's only 1 slide. You have a little bit better access to the engine, so labor will be a little cheaper over the life. And on top of that, they actually put the generator in the nose, so you end up with 5 luggage compartments instead of just 4. In the later ones, they put the doggone generator in one of the side compartments. I'm open. I just want one that's in really good shape, well taken care of. I do want one without 2 couches opposing. I don't think I need opposing couches. I'd like to have a reading chair with a table, and there's vents in the bottom of those tables, and I'd love to be able to have my feet right up near that and sit in front of these 2 large windows on the side with natural light and read, and probably sleep a lot too. Okay, what do you need to know today? The country's a mess. People are bringing up the Constitutional Congress, the Convention of States. They think that's the way to salvation. It's not the way to salvation. The way to salvation is the same way it's always been, and that's not even Yeshua. It's Yahweh. Yahweh is the Savior. Read the Bible carefully. You'll see Yeshua, who you like to call Jesus Christ, will tell you it's Yahweh who does the saving, the redeeming. So, you need to worship Yahweh. How do you do that? Well, the first thing you need to do is access God's mind. You don't need to go to church to do that. You do need to read the Bible to do that. I highly recommend that because they lie from those pulpits and they tell you a bunch of weird things from the pulpits. They made stuff up when I was a little boy, and I've had trouble overcoming that stuff. Okay. We're just come in, another train derailed. Great. We've let the country go downhill. We've allowed that to happen. We've had a lot of help. We've got so much corruption right now. I don't think things can be restored. I think we need a revolution, a return to self-rule. And it's my opinion that you don't do that through a convention of states in which you can change the Constitution and you could lose any of your rights, especially the Second Amendment. They're going to give that one up as fast as they can. And I say we don't even have a Second Amendment in full force. So we say, well, come on, Dr. Kent, we got our guns. That's hogwash. We have our guns. No, you don't have your Second Amendment. Your Second Amendment is very explicit. Do you have a militia? No, you don't have a militia. Are you a member in good standing with a militia anywhere? No, you don't. No, that's not the National Guard underneath that central communist government out of D.C. with their communist State Department. No, you don't want that. You want a volunteer government of citizens. And citizens provide their own armaments. That's what you want. And you want to be a member in good standing, which means you can't be a felon out there. You can't be doing mischief. It means you have to be under the command and control of a senior officer. Somebody's got to be responsible for you. You have to be responsible to him. You will not be free until you enforce these laws yourself. You cannot be a free people and have a professional police force. You just can't. I know we all grew up with it. That's just the way it is. We can't change. Yes, we can. And in case you're wondering, we can peel back all of these illegal amendments right back to the original 13th Amendment. And that's the strategic intervention I recommend, because that did pass. It was the law of the land. The purpose was the separation of powers. It put the attorneys in their places. I think you'll like that one. And then we get rid of all the other amendments. And before you even go screaming about your right to vote, it's a state's issue. Take care of that at your state. Don't bother us at the federal level about that bullshit ever again. You caused a lot of trouble with it. You actually gave birth to organized crime. And I'm not talking about the bootlegging either. I'm talking about the fact we had to create a damn FBI, a police state, because of that bullshit of yours. You federalized this government just by that simple action. And if there was one person that I'd love to have lunch with today, it would be my maternal grandmother. She was college educated. Graduated in 1907. And the one question I'd like to ask her after showing her everything is saying, well, what do you think of your suffragette marches now? What do you think of women's right to vote? You see, folks, the devil works in mysterious ways. He suckers us into things. Oh, it feels good. Let's do it. Let's not consider the consequences, the ramifications. No, let's not consider that this is going to undermine the rest of the banks by paying off this Democrat stronghold that the Israelis invested in big, that the Democrats are big invested, that purposely drove itself off the rails and ruined itself. There's no consequences for those jackasses. And yes, a lot of them are Jews. Yeah. Or fake Jews. Okay? There's problems with it. I don't care what their race, religion, or whatever it is you want to call it. Species. Okay, fine. I think what you do is you got to enforce the law even-handedly, properly. And Joe Biden, just like Barack Obama, is going to destroy that as fast as he can. And you think, well, gee, those people should get bailed out. That's a good thing to do. It feels good. Well, now that they're going to draw all the funds out of the insurance funding, what's going to happen to the next banks? What's going to happen to the little guy in the next banks that can't get coverage? Because that's what's going to happen. And they want to destroy these banks on purpose. They want to destroy the currency on purpose. Why? So they can enslave us further. How do you stop them from doing that? Go buy junk silver. Go buy occasional gold coin. Put your money into some of that. And at some point in time, refuse to take the greenbacks. I know that's easier said than done. I know that's a hard call, but that's not money, folks. That's script. It's monopoly money. It's unconstitutional. There is no money. You realize they stole the whole country? They stole all this influence that they have around the world? They've got the whole place enslaved? It's all been encroached upon by the same dirty bird? The United States is only one head of the three-headed eagle that rules the world today. You want to know about the three-headed eagle, the beast system? Well, I suggest you start with the book of Daniel in the Bible. And when you're done with the book of Daniel, go over to to Esdras, chapter 11 in particular, and there you will find the three-headed eagle, the continuation of the beast system. And you need to realize that you are living at the point where one head is going to eat the other head. Yes, it tells you what's going on right now. If anybody can figure out what the 12 wings are, I sure would like to know. The big head, by the way, the central head is the Vatican. It is Rome. See, this stuff has been hidden from us on purpose, and to be revealed in this time, this day and age. So you get to hear about it. You get to find out about it. We Protestants, we dumbass Protestants, saw fit to take those books out of the Bible. And of course, we had a lot of help because the Catholics and the Jesuits, which were created to go after the Reformation and destroy us, they saw fit to interfere in our Bibles, Bible translations, the sources for the books, the words that are in the Bible. They screwed everything up. They did it on purpose. Talk about a psyop. Talk about a head game. So if you really want to do good, then you have to love truth and justice in that order. Now, for those of you who are wondering, I used to not have to spell my last name to anybody. When I was a little boy, and most of my life, more than half of my life, I mentioned my name and everybody knew it. They knew how to spell it. Why? Well, it was a name brand, if you will. It's still a name brand on some cigarettes and a name brand on some ammunition. And there was a famous television show, but Hollywood was feeding us our story. And it was Love, Truth, Justice, or it was Truth, Justice, in the American Way was basically the motto of the Superman show. Wow, Ubermensch. Where have I heard that before? Oh, the Germans. The Germans talked about Superman. Well, what's wrong with being a superb being? What's wrong with being noble? What's wrong with having values? What's wrong with having ethics? What's wrong with being able to think clearly as to what's moral and what's not moral? We can't have that. Certainly can't have the 10 Commandments. Oh, whatever you do, don't put it on the courthouse. That creates a hostile environment for all those judges and attorneys. Can you imagine if it was a capital crime, punishable by death, to lie as a politician? How many politicians do you think would be running around today if it was a crime to lie? What about if you're a police officer and you fabricate a record, you fake up the evidence, you testify lying? What about a judge who lies from the bench, who refuses to consider evidence because he's got to throw the case because he's controlled by these other bastards that got the dirt on him? What about if you're a vice president and you're told that your boy's up on the front lines and we're going to get his ass killed if you don't throw this election? If you don't do this the way we want, your firstborn is gone. Or we got the videos of you buggering up that young boy very violently. Oh boy, people are going to love to see that one. We don't know what's happened, folks, so we need to be flexible and keep open minds. And the ugly, the evil that's going on is so big, but we can't get simple stuff done. I mean, obviously, that jackass was killed, same age as I am. Epstein, what was his name? The guy on that island, the CIA, Mossad, intelligence dude. who marketed kids and had all kinds of, apparently had sex, weird stuff on his island. A lot of minors being involved. Anyway, he was murdered. And you have your number one law enforcement officer in the whole country, your attorney general, lying and obviously covering up the crime. Now, in my book, that's accessory to murder after the fact. I think that's what it's called. Do you think the Attorney General, William Barr, might have an opinion as to what that should be called? What that might be called? It's just like everybody who knew who whacked Kennedy afterwards. Are they not accessories to murder after the fact for failure to report that? I mean, if you've made a proper police report and it gets filed away, that's one thing. You've discharged your duty. But if you fail to do that and they decide, hey, you knew about this, we're going to charge you with accessory to murder. The laws are kind of weird in some ways, especially when you have a bunch of these attorneys crossing over into other branches of government. You see, the purpose of the 13th Amendment was to make sure the attorneys didn't get us into any more wars like they did in 1812. The attorneys got us into that war, and the 13th Amendment, the original 13th Amendment, has been misnomered. They gave it the false name of titles of nobility. It was called that when I was a little boy in 6th grade. No, the real title of it was separation of powers. And it basically told the attorneys who were members of the Bar Association, begins with the letter B, the same as the word bitch, British. They were beholden to the British Crown. And because of that, they were stripped of any and all citizenship in these states. And the effect of the amendment went further than that. No attorney could hold office outside of the judiciary branch of government because they were already members of the judiciary. As officers of the court, that was their place. But March 4th, 1813, our Congress sat the attorneys anyway, in clear violation of the newly ratified 13th Amendment. Then along comes Abraham Lincoln, who's a member of the Bar Association and thus not entitled to be president. And he takes things a step further. He overwrites the original 13th Amendment with his anti-slavery amendment. Wow, talk about two birds, one stone. Yeah. Honest Abe wasn't called honest for no reason at all. And in case you're wondering, he was taken out. We're not really sure who took him out. We know that there was a conspiracy between Mary Todd Lincoln and her dope dealer to basically kidnap her husband. And we also know that he jumped down on stage breaking a leg and screaming out something about the South. Why did he do that? It was his only means of escape. He jumped from the balcony onto the stage, broke a leg. That's where your break a leg comes from in the acting profession, by the way, for good luck. And he headed off. No justice ever administered to him or to her. And for 2 years after the assassination of her husband, the Congress refused to pay and issue her widow's benefits. Why was that? Why did they hesitate to pay the poor widow the money she needed, the money she was due? Might it be because there was powder residue on her glove? Yeah, he was a man of problems. He had had 2 children by another woman, and his wife found out. Yeah. So, who really killed Abraham Lincoln? It's a question I have. And by the way, John Wilkes Booth was a member of the Golden Dawn, a secret society. Who started the Golden Dawn? That's another one for you. You'll be amazed when you find out who started that secret society. Yeah, I know. You're going to be real amazed when you find that one out. Okay. You'll just have to stay tuned or listen to the other shows. I'm going to keep this short. The heat's getting to me from the space heaters. It is warming up finally. It's been raining. It's cold out there. But I got the chill off in here. The weather is changing and it's not warming up. It's getting cooler, folks. And that's what's to be expected from what I can tell from the science. The real science which is being sat upon. We're not even allowed to talk about that stuff. So much for being land of the free, home of the brave. It's like a lot of other things we're not allowed to talk about. You know, when these jackasses get up and talk about solving global warming, they're basically talking about eliminating mankind from the planet. Yeah, they're real evil ones, all right. The same thing with that little punk, that little jackass that had to use phone books or a pillow to sit on his chair so he could testify before Congress and lie. He's not held accountable on that. And he tosses $400 million into the election throw-off stuff, the fund. And his pal Georgie, his relative actually, spends $800 million on the same thing. Why are they still given citizenship? Why are they not in prison? I think that's where they should be. Is that not high treason? The will of the people was that Donald Trump be president. The will of the people remains that way. And we got stupid Republicans taking sides, the other sides. You don't understand the big picture. I don't think you do. If you do, then call me up and correct me. Put a note down below. I called Mr. Rob's office, and I offered to tell him what was going on. No, they're just being polite and nice. You know, they let me speak, and I thanked them for that. And, you know, I like the guy otherwise, but coming out prematurely for this guy who's made it illegal to question the Holocaust. Do you know how many people were Holocausted in Ukraine? Not once, but on 2 separate occasions. Do you know how many people in Armenia were genocided at one time? And by whom? The Young Turks, who were Jews, by the way. Fake Jews, I guess. Do you know how many people were Holocausted in Nagasaki and Hiroshima? Like that? Do you know how many people were Holocausted in Dresden? Now that's the ticket right there. You need to understand that was hell on earth for about a full week for those poor people. People were being burned, melted into the tar. Buildings were coming down on them. Cinders, everything. It was hard to breathe in that place. The firestorm was so violent. And it had no military purpose at all. However, there was a purpose it fulfilled later. I think I'll share that with you now because you're not going to believe me anyway. It's going to take a while for this to sink in. I was hanging out with fellows at the church that I had just met after traveling across the country, all the way down from Alaska, all the way over to the edge of Ohio and Indiana. And we were hanging out there, and one of them had a friend. His friend had been a warrant officer in Army intelligence, and he received an order. Take this flatbed railroad car to Dresden. Load up the bodies. Take the train, deliver the bodies here. And then they took his picture as he was kneeling down in front of the corpses, the stacked corpses he had just placed there. He had just moved there. And it appeared on the cover of a very famous magazine. And the gentleman was pissed because there was no asking his permission. And he knew the hoax they were perpetuating on the rest of the world with that photograph. Why? Because he did as he was ordered to do, and he wasn't told why. He just followed his orders. And he insisted they retract. They retract that photograph and they give a proper accounting. And the Army refused, and the periodical refused. The magazine refused as well. So he resigned his commission as a warrant officer in Army intelligence, and he finished off his life working in a furniture factory. Where was that at? In South Bend, Indiana, I think is what that's called. Somewhere up there. up in that area where the creeks flow over the road so damn much, where all of the RV industry is, a lot of furniture industry is. He went and finished Elkhart. It was actually Elkhart is where he finished off his life, where he's worked. He was content with that. So, folks, you've been lied to. And in case you want to know the biggest Holocaust, Russia, and they're going to claim it was only 66 million. Not 6 million, 66 million. It was more. It was at least 100 million. And who was it that manned those gulags, that oversaw the mass extinction of all those people? Who was it that invaded Russia? Why did they invade Russia? Why were they going after the Tsar? It wasn't just to steal his gold. They ritually killed him and his entire family. It was payback. What sin had the Tsar committed? Well, he inherited his entire estate properly. He was very magnanimous. He was such a giving man that he let himself get set up to go down. Kind of reminds me of me. So he took it. His whole family took it. Who ordered the murder? The order was given from the shores of our country here. We allowed that murder to be perpetuated. Do you know why? It was payback. Because President Taft refused to honor his campaign promise, which was no more visas for Russians. And because of that, Jacob Schiff, ask Adam Schiff about Jacob Schiff. Jacob Schiff declared that war. He caused that war to happen. He made the announcement as he and his entourage were leaving the White House because he couldn't get what he wanted. He wanted payback for back when the Tsar interfered in their attack upon America. During our Civil War, the British, the French, and maybe the Spanish all had their navies ready. They were going to invade us. They were going to split up the spoils. They were going to destroy our nation. The Tsar was smart, had better intelligence, had been longer established, better educated for sure. And he stepped in, and he sent his navy here. His navy in secret. He had to do it in secret. He knew the enemy he was dealing with. They anchored up in San Francisco Harbor and New York Harbor, and they protected what was considered our young nation, while we fought among ourselves like fools and idiots being manipulated by the Jesuits out of the South. It had more to do with money than with slavery. And at the end of the war, Abraham Lincoln thanked the Tsar profusely and asked, "How may I pay you back?" And the Tsar said to him, kind of offhanded, "Well, you could pay me for my navy. You know it's very expensive." Abraham Lincoln asked him how much it was. $7 million is what it cost him to deploy his navy over here for us on our behalf. And Abraham Lincoln knew, oh my God, the Congress will never authorize that. At the time, the federal budget was only $10 million a year. $8 million of which was extracted from the South, and only $2 million of it came from the North. It was all about money. And so Abraham Lincoln and the Tsar apparently made a deal. I guess the Tsar he had extracted all the furs out of Alaska that he wanted. He didn't see any more use for it. So he leased it to us for 100 years. And it cost us $7.2 million. Kind of an odd figure. The $200,000 went to pay off congressmen and senators to make Seward's Folly happen. The 100-year lease on Alaska expired a few decades ago. Probably just before that weird statehood vote in which the military was allowed to vote for Alaska residents. That wasn't right. It was an improper election, like most in this country, it looks to be. I think Alaska should become the peacemaker. Alaska should become independent. We have one well on the North Slope that they drilled in 1974, and the federal government ordered us to cap it up. All we need to do is open up that one well and build a few miles of pipeline, and that pipeline will be filled at full capacity for 1.5 millennia. Do you know what a millennia is? Well, a millennia is 10 times a century. So 1,500 years of oil that we know of from the one well, non-stop, full operation, full wealth coming into what should be the citizens of Alaska. And that's all we have to do. We don't have to open up the North Slope like Biden's doing. We don't have to destroy other things, have other kinds of payoff and stuff. We just need the one well re-drilled. And by the way, that oil doesn't even come to the States. It is 20% of the energy our nation uses, but it doesn't go to the States. They built much better refineries to handle that oil in a much better fashion in Asia, so we ship it to Asia. And that takes pressure off the rest of the world market, and we actually get a higher quality of crude into the States that way, because we have a high sulfur content in Alaska. By the way, I don't think there's anything wrong with the sulfur content. Sulfur in the rain actually is nutritious for crops. When we took the sulfur out of the diesel fuel, farmers had to start putting sulfur on their acreage again to grow crops. It's the sixth most common element in the human body. It's that important. And so they spend, well, my farmer buddy told me, it's probably gone up since then, but they were spending $6 an acre to put sulfur on their land. They used to get it from the rain, and it helped lubricate the engines so that those diesel engines would go millions of miles. They took that away from us as well. We are ruled by the evil ones. Since you refuse to submit to Yahweh's rule, you're under man's rule. And the rules never end. The complexities and all that stuff. All right. Thanks for bearing with me today. Get those Bibles. Start reading them. I'm going to be referring to that stuff. And if you don't know the stories I'm referring to, then how are you going to know what I'm talking about? Did you know Western civilization's foundation's built on that Bible? Did you know that if you're not educated on that, you don't understand most of the literature that's out there? So you want to stay in the dark and be uneducated and be ruled over by those who hate you? That's what's happening today. Does Biden love this nation? Does Joe Biden love this nation? Who do we have ruling over us? Who's bought us all up with their magic money, their phony money? Who has undue influence in every state, every election? The cartel. Looks like the Sinaloan cartels have been lifted up by the big cartel that is in ruling the states. Wow. May Yahweh bless. Make America good again.